Labor welcomes the Australia-UK-US agreement to maximise the interoperability of our defence and security arrangements. Our US alliance is our most important, and the UK, of course, is our old friend. So it makes sense in terms of efficiency and in terms of maximising the positive output that we engage across our three nations to make sure that there is maximum interoperability available. The first thing to say about today is that we are concerned at the mismanagement of the future submarine project that has occurred. After 8 years, 3 Prime Ministers, 6 Defence Ministers and billions of dollars of sunken costs in this program, this is the most expensive example of something that has characterised this government. Its ability to promise, but its inability to deliver. This government has stood up for years in Parliament, in the community, continually saying that everything was on track. We're on track in terms of jobs, we're on track in terms of delivering defence capability, and now we have, with today's announcement, beginning at the beginning, after considerable costs, and we will be pursuing transparency from the government about exactly what the cost of this is. We know that the cost up to now has been up to $4 billion. We know there are contracts in place already that will be breached, and we know there will be substantial compensation costs payable, and Australian taxpayers are entitled to know, given that under this government they began with arrangements with Japan, then arrangements with France, and now we have these arrangements with the United States and potentially the UK as well. This decision, of course, comes in the pre-caretaker period. We will be facing an election in coming months, but there will be an 18-month period of further consultation and processes in order to move forward and to finalise any future arrangements. It is appropriate that the opposition, given we are in pre-caretaker, be involved in all of these processes. And I have suggested as a mark of good faith to the Prime Minister this morning that we establish a joint mechanism between the government and opposition senior members so that we have oversight of this process. It is up to him to show, I think, the goodwill for bipartisanship on this matter that it requires, given that we have been through 3 terms and we're now in the last period of the 3rd term of the government. Given they have left it until now to change direction, I think it is only reasonable that we ensure that we're able to move forward as whoever forms government after the next election. And I commit as well to, if the government agrees to set up an appropriate process, that if elected Prime Minister, I would include the then opposition leader and appropriate people in such a forum going forward. Can I say that we will take as well a calm and measured approach to this announcement. We will always act in the national interest. We were briefed yesterday and we kept those confidences there. But many questions remain outstanding. We need to know the full cost of the abandonment of the existing program, but we also need to know what the cost of the proposed program would be. What the precise time frame is, given that the proposal is that the new submarines would not be in the water until 2040. What are the proposals for job creation, and in particular where those jobs will be located? How we maximise Australian procurement in this process and Australian jobs. What are the skills that will be required, and how do we ensure that those skills can be provided by Australians? In short, we need to maximise our national benefit from our national defence system, and that's consistent with the announcement that I made as part of my budget reply for a future made in Australia. Labor has three conditions for the support of nuclear-powered submarines, which we have sought assurance on. Firstly, that there be no requirement of a domestic civil nuclear industry. Secondly, that there be no acquisition of nuclear weapons. And thirdly, that this agreement would be compatible with the Non-Proliferation Treaty. All of those conditions, I believe, can be met. It's very clear that the next generation technology in terms of nuclear-powered submarines has very clear advantages over the submarines that were commissioned by this coalition government and that so much money has been spent on. There are advantages for capacity in terms of depth and length of staying undersea. There are advantages in terms of speed, but importantly as well, there are advantages in terms of stealth that helps to improve the national security outcomes of the purchase of such a submarine capacity. We do note, of course, that our advice is that the submarines won't enter the water until 2040. So we will continue to examine the detail of these proposals. We'll examine them constructively, and we'll examine them in the light of our commitment to putting Australia's national interest first, which is something that Labor has always done. I spoke just a short time ago now on the 70th anniversary of the ANZUS Treaty. ANZUS grew out of Australian Labor under John Curtin turning towards the United States during our darkest hour in World War II. It is something that the Australian Labor Party has consistently provided support for. And we've consistently also put our national interest before any short-term political considerations. We will do that in examining the detail of these proposals going forward, which is why I've sought a structure in which we can participate, given that we are in the period in which we are in the lead up to an election. Can I make some comments before I take questions about Christian Porter? Christian Porter's position is untenable. The fact is that the Coalition are a living, breathing reminder of the need for a national anti-corruption commission. It is simply untenable for a Minister of the Crown to receive up to $1 million from sources unknown in order to pursue a private legal matter and then say that he doesn't know where the money came from. That declaration, through his pecuniary interests, is an admission that he has a personal interest. And you can't just take money as a Cabinet Minister from persons unknown and not declare it. And why the Prime Minister needs to have an inquiry on this is beyond me, because it's the Prime Minister who established Prime Ministerial guidelines. They're his guidelines. He doesn't need another inquiry. And yet again, the Prime Minister, who doesn't seem to know what happens in his own office, needs to ask someone else to do the right thing and to give him this advice. There is such a stench around this and around Christian Porter that all that is missing is a cloud of blowflies. This stinks. They have flipped around John F. Kennedy's dictum, given we're talking about the United States today. They don't ask what they can do for their country, they ask what their country can do for them. It's about time we restored faith in politics, which is why we need a National Anti-Corruption Commission. But in the meantime, Christian Porter should go, and he should go today.